ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those between the binary and those between the binary, whatever the hell that means, welcome back to Rambling About Wrestling, the only show that puts the F up in FA Cup. We are today booking how I would book, how Jack would book, the Continental Cup. Of course, the Continental Cup there, modelled after the FA Cup, with similar rules to the FA Cup too. There will be no outside interference, a common classic of the C2, but no time limits this time, as it is not a single elimination tournament. 16 wrestlers compete in 8 blind draw matches. The 8 winners then compete in 4 blind draw matches. The 4 winners then move on to the semi-finals in Glasgow, and the cup final will take place at Wembley Stadium at or in August 30th. The winner of the final will receive the Continental Cup and will be the new AEW Continental Champion. So there you have it. Those are the rules for this booking, and this booking only. We will be using the predetermined matches that were drawn the other day, just so that I have an actual chance of booking the tournament correctly. So let's kick things off with Orange Cassidy taking on Matt Sydal. Now, personally, you know how much I love Orange Cassidy. I want to see him at All In, and I don't think he fits in exactly, although he is 1/3 of the... no, he's not anymore. I was going to say he's 1/3 of the Trios Champions. That he is not. Yeah, that really throws a spanner in the works, but I am still going to book Orange Cassidy ahead. Matt Sydal, I don't know. I want to see an underdog run, but I also don't know if Matt Sydal has done anything in the last year to beat Orange Cassidy in such an important tournament. So for that reason, it is OC going into the hat. The hat, which I'll tell you about in a minute, because we are going to be using the FA Cup style of drawing names out of the hat to determine the later rounds. Moving on now, our second match of the evening: Claudio Castignoli taking on Ace Austin. This, as I've said, an AEW Collision match once more. 8/7 Central, Saturday, August 8th on TNT. As much as I want Ace Austin to go through, I'm going to have to go with the law reasons of John Moxley retaining... of Claudio Castagnoli getting through, because John Moxley has a lot of law with him, similar to Orange Cassidy. Maybe that'll come down the line. We don't know, because I have to draw these names out of a hat. So perhaps we'll get to run a little Mox OC run. Maybe we won't. Who knows? But for the reason of law and nothing else, Claudio Castagnoli going into the hat. As we move on, well, first of all, just to say, Ace Austin, I literally idolise him, so it's a tough one to lose. And if I was truthfully booking this tournament, this is one of those where I'm really split, because I would like to see Ace Austin go on an underdog run. But I also want the tournament there to be some juicy matches left later on with lots of storied history, and he doesn't really have storied history with many people, so I'd be really taking a gamble. But we move on to a man who could also be going on an underdog run, I guess. I don't know if you'd call it an underdog run. He's an established name in AEW. Of course, talking about Eddie Kingston. So he takes on former national champion Jake Doyle. Mr. Andrade El Idolo took the national title from him just weeks ago. Eddie Kingston, it's a real tough story that Eddie Kingston's had. I mean, I think we can all agree he's lost the step. And that pains me to say, because I'm a massive Eddie Kingston fan. But he hasn't been featured as much. So it'd be nice to give him a couple wins. And for that reason, I am going to be moving him on, of course. But yeah, it's been a been a rough return for Eddie Kingston. I think he's been on Ring of Honor a lot. He's been involved elsewhere, but he hasn't made the main broadcast. And I don't know if that's negligence on the part of Mr. Anthony Khan, or if it's something a little. If he just can't go anymore, because he is getting on, and that's really sad to say. But again, there's an argument to be made. Jake Doyle has been impressive on television, but I can't overthink every single one. Moving Eddie Kingston on. End of story. So we move to 2 Dynamite matches live from Las Vegas. I've never realised how nasally I am with the L's. You ever notice that at the start of the live in London, live in Coventry reviews? Live. I was really self-deprecating there. We have the biggest Bullet Club match to happen since Finn and AJ ran it. Whenever they did. Last year, I think it was. But I think that was at Mania, right? It's not even particularly Bullet Club affiliated. Well, it is actually. That's the whole personality. The Bang Bang Gang's leader, Switchblade Jay White, takes on David Finlay of the Dogs. Now, obviously, no interference. These two are feuding, but it's not these two. It's the whole groups. So maybe there'll be a. Do we know the rules on attacking people at the top of the stage to distract people? Because I feel like the Dogs might try something like that. Also, do we have VAR in this? There's a VAR in the real FA Cup, but if Gabe Kidd should distract the referee, if the referee should be distracted and Gabe Kidd hits a cheeky headbutt onto Jay White, can we review the footage to suspend him? What's going on? Does he have to go back to New Japan, kicking and screaming, crawl back and beg for his job back in Japan, in the dojo where he spent 2 whole years? I am going to move on. Switchblade Jay White, obviously though. I think David Finlay is very good, but I think since Jay White's returned more recently, and there's a match that I'm eyeing up for them to redeem themselves. So hopefully we draw that later on. As Jay White, I mean, you probably can't see it, but you'll be able to see it clearly in a minute. As we move on, next matchup. Now this one, the champ is here. Jungle Jack Perry takes on the Continental champion Jon Moxley. Now, wouldn't it be something for Jon Moxley to go out round 1 and lose before the tournament even properly begins? It would, but I don't think Jack Perry's the man to do it, simply because, again, I've booked this tournament so heavily around run-ins with Jon Moxley. I'm really betting on Jon Moxley getting somebody who he knows quite well. So Jon Moxley in the hat. There's nothing else to say about it. So we move on to a bit of conglomeration on conglomeration action. Roderick Strong, the Messiah of the Backbreaker, taking on Kyle O'Reilly. I hope this is a reminder to everybody just how much these two can ball. I think this will be quite tense. I mean, if you think in the storyline, I don't think these two have a clear-cut path to Wembley aside from this tournament. So one of them is ending their Wembley dream until at least next year, at least. It's not as special to be on the All-In card anymore. We don't have to try and cram everyone on. But there's the tension of somebody's going to lose their shot at the title. And the man I think will lose is Kyle O'Reilly, unfortunately. Roderick Strong he's too good. He's so versatile with everybody. Kyle O'Reilly would be a shout, though, because of the fact that, of course, he tapped Jon Moxley out a lot. Moxley barely beat him in the end. Yeah, I don't know. I'm doubting myself a lot here. But that's just how close this tournament is. So we move to the penultimate first round match. Brian Cage taking on Hechicero. Now, this is a bit of Don Callis family on Don Callis family action, and this is going to seem like booking malpractice on my end, because I don't think Hechicero is going to win. I don't think he's going to win. And of course, this would set up a dream match that I think has already happened last year between the winner of the next contest. But I actually think Brian Cage is going to win, and he's going to be a sort of powerhouse storming his way through the tournament. In the hat he goes. I want to see him toss people around. I want to see some hard-hitting matches with the likes of Claudio, or... I mean, yeah, he's either going to toss someone around in Orange Cassidy or have a pretty technical versus power who will win match for Claudio. I don't think there's any other person on here. I might have booked this completely wrong from myself. I mean, I think you could probably toss Roderick Strong about, but maybe this is booking malpractice on my part as we move to the match I'm most excited for. I mean, if your lips weren't salivating, either of them, when you saw Katsuyori Shibata versus Nigel McGuiness announced, I don't think you're a wrestling fan, quite frankly. These two marvellous technical wrestlers. Of course, Nigel stealing the Nigel area off Leslie. That's a callback. Cheers, Michael Oku, for that one. And Katsuyori Shibata, so insane. I mean, we all know the story, guys. He had his brain removed. I mean, I doubt. I have my doubts of that, but he had his brain removed. We'll go with that. I think because he's British. Nigel McGuiness, get in the hat. Easy as pie, easy as you like. Now it's time we move on to the draw. Of course, the hat is a Chiquito's hat. There is nothing more British that isn't British than a Chiquito's hat. I'm pretty sure we're the only country that have them, basically. But yeah, that's basically what the Continental Cup is. It's a British tournament that isn't British, because it's from an American company. Let's get straight in, guys. Our first choice, we have... Oh, I didn't think I would do this. It is Claudio Castignoli. And he will be facing... Nigel McGuiness. Our second contest picks Eddie Kingston as he takes on Brian Cage. That means our next matchup is Orange Cassidy. So he takes on Switchblade Jay White. Leaving our last matches to be John Moxley taking on Roderick Strong. So there you have it. The first drawing, which I'm sure worked a treat. Let's get into the quarter-final match. We have Nigel McGuiness taking on Claudio Castignoli as our first one. I'm gonna have to say, I don't know. This is a tricky one for me. It's a real tough one. I am gonna go for Nigel McGuiness again. I think it's pretty obvious where we're heading with this, especially now that Swerve and Hangman aren't in the tournament, which is quite frankly shocking. that Hangman and Page hasn't made it to the tournament. I really thought he would. But yeah, I'm gonna put Nigel McGuiness back into the hat, which I'm sure is a hit. And that means Claudio, Castignoli, you're out of here. As our next matchup to discuss, Brian Cage versus Eddie Kingston. Now, this is another one where I don't know where to go. First off, I personally think an Eddie Kingston John Moxley semi-final would be nice, emotional, ethical graps, which seems to be the thing with me, ethical graps. However, Brian Cage has the coolest finisher in the world, and I'm a very caveman-minded person in that cool finisher equals cool man. So the Swolverine is not going to move on. Nope. I have to stick with Eddie Kingston. Very sorry, Brian Cage. You're almost a Continental Cup semi-finalist in my mind. I'm sure that'll break your heart that you didn't make the cut. As we move to quarterfinal number 3, it is Switchblade Jay White and Orange Cassidy. Another one where it's very interesting. Now, I think personally that they're going to be running a Stadium Stampede this year with Jay White, Bullet Club Gold, Bang Bang Gang, whatever you want to call it, taking on the Dogs. Maybe we'll chuck Motor City Machine Guns in there. Maybe we'll throw a few other people either side. But I don't think Orange Cassidy will be involved in that. And for that reason, and that reason only, I think Orange Cassidy has to move on. Because there's just no point. Jay White isn't going to be able to make it to the finals. There's no point running it. No point letting him go any further than the quarterfinals. Except for the fact that obviously I'd like him to. But thinking smarter, not harder. As we move to our 4th match, Roderick Strong versus John Moxley now. Now this is a match that tickles my fancy. My fancy is very much so tickled. I think it's pretty obvious that John Moxley will make it far. However, I don't want him to. Because Roderick Strong's so cool, man. Same argument as Brian Cage versus Eddie Kingston just then. Cool finisher equals cool man. And Roderick Strong is the messiah of the backbreaker. However, it has to be Mox, unfortunately. I understand in another life, Roderick Strong, you made it so far, but not this life. As you know what we'll do the picks now. I'm not switching to my second camera because it was so difficult to do. Let's crumple these names up and drop them into the hat. This person will take on this person. Okay, who have we got? It will be John Moxley taking on Orange Cassidy. Yeah, these two, this would be a fun one, I think. These two have had a cracking rivalry in the past. So, I don't know, man. It's a toughie. I am going to send John Moxley through to the final. Obviously, the champion never loses. And this is a prediction video as much as it's how I'd like to see it booked. Also, you know, we've had the Orange Cassidy beat John Moxley a couple times. So he is out of here. And John Moxley back in the hat for our first final. And of course, the 2 names left. And this would be a banger. Eddie Kingston. What? Eddie Kingston taking on Nigel McGuiness. Oh, this would be hard hitting. I'm seeing Hurricanes into Nigel Lariats. I'm seeing nonsense galore, and I'm seeing Nigel McGuiness making it through to the final. I don't think you've got a loser, really, when it comes to McGuiness versus Eddie Kingston, because they would cook in Wembley Stadium in front of tens of thousands of people against Jon Moxley. Both have, well, I mean, one has more history in Eddie Kingston, but also Nigel McGuiness is British, and obviously was on. He hates Brian Danielson. Don't know how I made that mistake. Yeah, I'm booking him through. I'm sending Nigel McGuiness to the final, which means obviously the final, Jon Moxley, Nigel McGuiness. I have a theory here. How cool would it be for Nigel McGuiness to be Continental Champion? It'd be quite cool, right? In front of British people, even cooler. So for that reason, I'm going Jon Moxley. Imagine the heartbreak that the British people will be facing when terrorist Jon Moxley defeats Nigel McGuiness. I'm thinking, I've got a plan for the finish here, lads, and you can steal it if you want. Bang, Mox, lunatic lariat, bang. Nigel doesn't go down, he hits the Nigel lariat. Lunatic lariat, bang, Nigel lariat countered into the Death Rider. There you go. That's your finish. Book it, boys. I know you want to. But yeah, it's modelled after the FA Cup. But what would be more British, English, more leading than than losing in a cup final? Absolutely nothing. And it'll make Will Ospreay's victory later on in the evening all that much sweeter. So for that reason, and still your champ. Of course, that might not happen. There's part of me that thinks it will, part of me that thinks it won't. Well, we can only find out. But until next time, I'll be seeing you. Stay rambling.